Israeli states that its air force attacked Hezbollah headquarters and an underground weapons workshop in Beirut. Sirens sound across northern Israel after 3 projectiles were launched from Lebanon. And the Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemns the international community's failure to stop what it called a war of extermination against Palestinians. It's exactly 8 p.m. Ghana local time, and you're watching Qnews. Let's start our bulletin with latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The Israeli occupation military has stated that its air force attacked Hezbollah headquarters and an underground weapons workshop in Beirut. In response, Hezbollah announced that it had launched rocket salvos at Israeli forces in the Sedan area of Shaba Farms. At the same time, Israeli media reported at least 70 rockets fired towards Akka and Nahariya from southern Lebanon. Lebanese media has reported renewed Israeli airstrikes on southern Beirut. The Israeli occupation military has conducted 4 airstrikes over the past few hours. Earlier, the occupation forces issued warnings to evacuate buildings in both areas. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has stated that his country could like to see Israel scale back some of its strikes in and around the Lebanese capital of Beirut.
I say the same thing that I said about Gaza and continue to say. The numbers of civilian casualties have been far too high. We'd like to see Israel scale back on some of the strikes that it's taking, especially in and around Beirut. And we'd like to see things transition to some sort of negotiation that would allow civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes.
In Beirut, where destruction meets resilience, displaced families endure the harrowing aftermath of airstrikes. Their experiences reveal not only the profound suffering inflicted by the conflict, but also a glimmer of hope as they navigate this dim reality. Special thanks to the crew of Al Qahira News Channel for bringing us this vital report from Lebanon.
رمضان افتح المايك افتح المايك افتح المايك فين الضربة دي افتح المايك غلط
عادي يا اخي عادي.
دي ضربة
جدار ستات ورا بعضهم. مش
We were here on a press mission that we hadn't yet begun, but we lived through the shock of one of the airstrikes of Beirut with these displaced people. where the cries of children mix with the groans of the elderly. In these cold corners, nothing expresses alienation more than eyes waiting for relief amidst walls filled with the stories of pain.
We are living on edge, constantly anxious. Any moment the strike will come, any moment it will pass. It's incredibly difficult what we're going through.
The repeated airstrikes did not just destroy homes, their flames extended to burn lives. Here, in the temporary shelter, every wall carries a story of suffering, and every face tells a new chapter of sorrow, deepening with each strike.
I'm scared they'll strike the school and I'll die, or my family will die, or something will happen to them, or something will happen to me. This isn't right. My family and I, we all need to stay together.
I mean, while I'm playing, they suddenly strike here. I get scared and run to my mom.
We decided to create a program to reduce this tension and help the children express what's inside them and speak. We focused a lot on drawing, especially for the kids who can't express themselves verbally. They started expressing their pain on paper and they eventually began talking about it.
Children here sleep on the edge of nightmares, and families try to shield themselves with fragile hope for tomorrow. But the sound of planes turned this hope into a distant, almost unattainable dream. What the displaced are experiencing in the shelters has called them great shock. But the bigger shock came from the airstrikes that targeted Beirut, especially the most violent one in the Basta area in central Beirut, to which we will now go. Here, where Beirut once stood as the capital of life, it now appears to be a city sinking in the silence of ruins. Israeli airstrikes have left no stones unturned in many parts of the capital. Every corner here tells a story of pain, grief, and memories that once bore witness to the pulse of life.
It's something that can't be described. You're sitting in safety at home, and suddenly a missile or two hit. No one knows when they will strike. They fell on us and completely destroyed this place.
We are utterly terrified. People are bringing aid and used clothes and placing them in a location, but now we are scared lest the plane sees the aid being dropped and targets it. In our area, no one feels safe anymore.
In the southern suburbs of Beirut, where destruction has become the language of the land, buildings have turned to rubble. The dreams have crumbled under the weight of the strike. The echoes of war still resonate in every alley, and every stone holds a memory of a life that once was. Beirut, a city brimming with resilience. How much you have endured and how much you have bled. Here, among the debris and in the corners of displacement, stories of suffering and pain beat on. But also the voice of hope, the voice of life, remains louder than any shell. This is Lebanon, a homeland resting on the shoulders of love, despite everything, waiting for the sun to rise once again, lighten up a new day. From the surrounding of the southern suburbs, Ramadan al-Mat'ani, Al-Qahira News, the capital of news.
Special thanks to Al-Qahira News Channel's correspondent Ramadan al-Mat'ani and the dedicated team at Al-Qahira News Channel for their exceptional reporting and coverage of these critical events in Lebanon. And for more analysis, we now move to Salma in our newsroom. Salma?
Thank you, Rana. And for further analysis on the situation in Lebanon, we are joined from Amman by the strategy expert, Assam Malkawi. Mr. Assam, welcome to Q News. We're glad to have you with us to know your inputs on the matter. First off, what are the chances to reach an agreement on a ceasefire in Lebanon soon, or is the situation still ongoing? Mr. Assam, are you with me? Sir, can you hear me? Mr. Assam? It looks like, unfortunately, we're having a technical problem to reach Mr. Assam, so we're going to move back to Rana in the studio.
Have been sounding across northern Israel after 3 projectiles were launched from Lebanon. Israeli media stated that the city of Haifa and nearby areas were affected. Israel has been exchanging fire with Hezbollah since the Israeli war on Gaza erupted last October. In Lebanon, the health ministry has reported that around 2,400 people have been killed, most of them in the last month. The Israeli occupation forces have reported that a barrage of 70 projectiles were fired at northern Israel. The rockets were identified as crossing from Lebanon. They said that most of the projectiles were intercepted by the Israeli air defense system, while some were identified to have fallen in the area. Israel has claimed to have targeted more than 65 Hezbollah fighters in southern Lebanon. Israeli Air Force also reportedly struck rocket launch sites aimed at Israel. In the past 24 hours, Israeli airstrikes have hit around 175 targets in Gaza and Lebanon. And now we go back again to our newsroom, to Salma in our newsroom for more analysis.
Thank you, Rana. And for further analysis on the situation in Lebanon, we are joined from Amman by the strategy expert, Assam Malkawi. Mr. Assam, welcome to Q News. We're glad to have you with us to know your inputs on the matter. First off, is it possible to reach an agreement on a ceasefire in Lebanon soon, or is the situation still ongoing?
In fact, there are several readings regarding the ceasefire. It seems that the military arena, either in Gaza or in Lebanon, may indicate to the political and military leadership in Israel that they are achieving tactic wins or victories on the ground. That's why they do not have to conclude any deals, even if there are pressure from the mediators regarding this war or from the Western states. Israel now wants to reach a convincing that the south of Lebanon war makes Hezbollah unable to reply in a manner that may harm the Israeli army. That's why it's not concerned with the ceasefire, because ceasefire for the resistance in the south of Lebanon and in Gaza is a chance for the reorganizing and of the leadership. So now we can see what's known as the continuity of the operations of Iran. And
now, regarding the United States call for a 21-day for a ceasefire, is this still on the table? And can the United States administration exert pressure on Israel to implement a ceasefire in Lebanon? We're having a technical problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Assam, for what you offered in terms of valuable information. Now we're going to move back to Rana for more news and developments around the world.
Thank you, Salma. Now we move to the latest developments in Gaza. Palestinian casualties from Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have overwhelmed local hospitals. Israeli airstrikes have hit homes in a residential building in Beit Lahia, sending casualties to Kamal al-Adwain Hospital. Local media reports say that 73 people have been killed, with a senior health official confirming the figures. 35 additional deaths have been reported across Gaza, with rescue efforts hindered by a 2-day communication blackout. The director of Kamal al-Adwain Hospital has said that dozens remain trapped under the rubble in Beit Lahia. The hospital is overwhelmed, with continuous strikes hampering rescue efforts. Due to limited resources, doctors are forced to prioritize cases, with many of the injured dying because they couldn't be treated on time. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry has condemned the international community's failure to stop what it called a war of extermination against Palestinians. The ministry has warned that Israel is using this inaction as a cover to commit further crimes, such as the recent actions in Beit Lahia, ceasefire, and warned against enabling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to continue his aggression as an alternative to political solutions. Northern Gaza remains under severe Israeli aggression, with relentless airstrikes and ground assaults causing widespread devastation and mounting civilian casualties.
Northern Gaza continues to face intense Israeli aggression, with relentless airstrikes and ground operations causing widespread destruction and civilian casualties, further worsening the already dire humanitarian crisis. An Israeli airstrike on a residential complex in Beit Lahia killed at least 73 people and left many others injured. Local reports indicate that warplanes leveled the complex while civilians were inside, trapping many under the rubble. Rescue teams are struggling to reach affected areas due to ongoing bombardments. In another attack, Israeli drones targeted tents sheltering displaced families at Al-Awda Hospital's courtyard and hit an ambulance. Since the siege on Gaza began on October 7, 2023, more than 42,500 Palestinians have been killed and over 99,600 injured. Many of them are women and children. Thousands more are believed to be trapped beneath the rubble, as emergency services face immense difficulties accessing bombarded areas. The blockade of northern Gaza has reached its 16th day, intensifying what many call ethnic cleansing and mass civilian deaths. Hospitals have been specifically targeted. Tanks surrounded the Indonesian hospital in Sheikh Zayed, damaging its structure, while Al-Awda Hospital was struck multiple times. Similar attacks occurred at Al Yemen Al Said Hospital, and shelling near Kamal Adwan Hospital damaged its water and electricity systems. Jabalia and surrounding areas have been hit by heavy artillery, causing extensive damage and filling the sky with smoke. With 379 consecutive days of violence, the humanitarian disaster in Gaza continues to escalate as Israeli occupation forces carry out indiscriminate attacks across the territory.
And moving on to further developments in Africa, we move to Mona. Mona?
Thank you so much, Rana. And now we move on to the latest developments in Africa. Right, welcome back. And the WHO Regional Director Hanan Hassan al-Balkhi has presented Egypt's malaria-free certificate to the Egyptian Health Minister Khaled Abdel Ghaffar during the International Conference on Population Health and Human Development. The minister expressed his gratitude to President al-Sisi for his unwavering support of health, population and comprehensive development initiatives, all aimed at ensuring a decent life for the Egyptian citizens. Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati had convened with Sudanese Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to discuss the latest developments in the ongoing crisis in Sudan. The discussions focused on Egypt's efforts to restore security and stability in Sudan. Egypt's Foreign Minister reaffirmed his country's commitment to preserving Sudanese institutions and respecting its sovereignty. He emphasized the importance of facilitating humanitarian efforts, providing relief aid, and offering support to mitigate the crisis' impact on the Sudanese people. Well, these were all the African news we have with us today, and we're now back to Rana. Rana.
Thank you very much, Mona. And now we move on to the climate news, where waves have crashed onto the streets of the western French city, soaking onlookers and vehicles. France's weather service has issued strong waves warnings for much of the region. Video shared on social media captured dozens of people gathering to watch the spectacular, laughing and cheering as they were drenched by the surging water. One person was reported found dead in the municipality of Painoro following heavy floods that struck the area overnight. Reports indicate that the individual was driving when his car was swept away by the rushing water. Since late yesterday, intense rainfall has caused several rivers to overflow in the region that has experienced similar disasters in the past. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what we have been covering. Israel states that its Air Force attacked Hezbollah headquarters and an underground weapons workshop in Beirut. Sirens sound across northern Israel after 3 projectiles were launched from Lebanon. And the Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemns the international community's failure to stop what it called a war of extermination against Palestinians. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow us on Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Qnews to stay informed. For real-time updates, connect with us on the UMS digital platform. Watch it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.